It's Hira here with Kareli, and today is a special day. We have Katherine here, and like I said, she literally, the reason why we're a bit late is because she just got off a plane out of Africa. I mean, I don't mean to be like a cliche, but look at her, like with her hat, and here the luggage is right here. Like, I don't know if you guys can see, like that's her luggage. I'm not kidding. Like, so we have a good reason to be late is what I'm trying to say. Although, Katherine, I have to say, you look very pale.
Sunblock.
Did you actually?
I have been on the equator for the last 2 years almost.
That's incredible sunblock. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, that's not bad. You did a good job protecting your skin. All
Tell
right.
my mom.
Huh?
Tell my mom that.
Tell your mom. Hi, Mrs. Witt. Okay, so today's topic is going to be about working for the United Nations, working in field work, international development. So Katherine works for the United Nations, and so she'll tell us a little bit about which program exactly and where she's based.
Sure. So I work for a small organization called known as UN Habitat, and it's about 1,500 staff members. UN Habitat stands for United Nations Human Settlement Program, and it's kind of a combination. It's similar to UNDP, but they have, it's like three areas of focus: is economic, legislative, and spatial. So my background is architecture, and I came in through the spatial component is to do urban planning. It's supposed to make promote sustainable urbanization throughout the world.
Okay. So, and UN Habitat is a organization within the larger United Nations.
Yeah.
Nairobi, big.
Yes.
Now, is it linked to UN
Nairobi headquarters?
Nairobi headquarters.
Yeah.
So, is it linked to UNDP then? Because UNDP is the biggest sort of UN office out there, right? In terms of.
Well, we operate separately from them, but I mention them because it's similar. That we focus on development work, and UNDP actually operates in the same regions where I happen to be working right now. When UN Habitat was started in the last century, a third of the world's population was urban, and in the next 30 years, 2/3 of the world's population will be urban. So anyway, this agency,
there's a ton of work. That's
yes, exactly. So it's promoting healthy urbanization. You know, not things turning into slums and sanitation and security and safety, all that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just quickly, I hope you guys can hear us, especially I hope you can hear Katherine. Just let us know, and then when you're joining us, please say where you're joining us from, say hello. If you have any comments, questions for Katherine, go ahead, put it in the comments. We'll try to take it as we go along, or we'll get back to you at the end of the session. So, Katherine, what was it like, I mean, being in the field, right? Like, going out there is very different, I think, to what people imagine when they think of, like, working in development. And it certainly is, I know, very different to being at headquarters, right? Like, I know when I worked for the World Bank, being here in Washington, D.C. was completely different to being out in where the projects were taking place, and really just being in the field, doing field work, working with local organizations and things like that. So, what's it like? I mean, first of all, like Nairobi, Kenya, how's all that been?
Okay, so I was working in DC before, and actually a friend of mine from college sent me the job link, and she said, I think you'd be interested in this. And at the time I wasn't thinking about moving to Africa at all, but I looked at that, and I guess the field work is, I knew it would be dramatically different, but I there's no electricity there or plumbing, and I'm out very far. I'm like 2 hours from the South Sudanese border.
So but it's very different, as you were saying, to when you're out in the field, right?
Yeah.
So when you're out in the field, first of all, like, are you doing? Tell us a little bit about your work, because you are actually building I mean, I've seen from your pictures, I see like how one day I'm looking and there's like at the beginning of a house type thing, and then there's a house, and then there's several, and so I'm like, oh wow, so you're out there actually physically
constructing. Yeah. Well, my particular project, we're basically developing a new refugee settlement on the border of South Sudan. And so my agency came up with, they're planning a new settlement.
And this is for the refugees from South Sudan?
South Sudan. About 70% of the occupants are South Sudanese, but then we also have refugees from 7 other nations.
Okay.
So
Wow.
people, Somalia, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Burundi, Congo, Eritrea. Yeah.
So even though they don't have, I'm assuming the idea of like building this is so that people can have basic sanitation and basic, right? Like
Yeah.
how
Exactly.
Okay.
So the idea was a lot of refugee settlements around the world can start informally. There's a very famous one near Paris that's massive and had no government or any agency involvement whatsoever. But it was a mess, and it was actually shut down. People were evacuated in the last few years. So the intention with this project was from the beginning. We say we know there will not be peace in South Sudan anytime soon, unfortunately. So because of that reason, we want to plan this like it's going to be a city.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of just putting people together in a temporary situation, we know they're going to be displaced for a long time.
For a long time.
So we plan it like a city. So my colleagues in Nairobi, before I came, they had done this whole layout to house 60,000 people with schools, with community centers, health facilities, public administration spaces, and then where housing is supposed to go, where the streets will be, how big the streets will be, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the background was. And the group in Nairobi is doing a lot of like economic and legislative work with the Kenyan government as well. But in the field is where we're doing the physical implementation of this plan. So because I have a background in like kind of the physical construction sort of things, they thought, I mean, that's how I got engaged with it. Although frankly, I knew when you say like, what's the field like, life like, I think also the cultural
adjustment.
I mean, I knew that I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because it was so drastically different. Like, I kind of found it as like a challenge that would be fascinating.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the things where when you're working at the high level of doing something on paper and in headquarters versus like in the field, you can really see how, like, yes, they came up with this whole like 200-page packet about how to start a settlement, and now we're seeing, okay, actually that packet seems like it's very, very thick proposal for the government, but there's so many gaps actually put it together, right?
Yeah, and
it's very vague when you're going to put it, when you make it happen. So, yeah.